and welcome to Build. Thank you for joining us for our first breakout session this year, delivering developer velocity through the entire engineering system. I'm Anthony Cangelosi, a Principal Group Product Manager at Microsoft, working on products and services that help developers be more productive and focus on the code they want to write. I'll be joined by Varun Gupta, a Lead Program Manager in Developer Division as well. Today, we're excited to talk to you about the future of software development and engineering systems. We'll start off by looking at some of the trends and challenges shaping software development before introducing Microsoft DevOps and Azure deployment environments, the two newest offerings coming from Microsoft. Varun will walk you through several demos showing how these products will impact day-to-day development, before leaving you with details to sign up for the private preview and where to learn more. Modern development processes have transformed what we as developers can achieve. Best-in-class planning, development, and collaboration tools make it easier for us to innovate and connect with our teams, while automated processes help us work more efficiently. In fact, the right tools can help boost innovation by up to 65%. By leveraging these kinds of tools and processes, we can maximize our developer velocity, empowering devs and helping leaders explore the art of what's possible. But developer velocity isn't just good for developers. It has a huge impact on business performance. According to McKinsey, organizations with high developer velocity saw revenue grow 4 to 5 times faster than their counterparts. But demands on developers are constantly rising, and inefficiencies remain baked into many of the systems we rely on today. Nowhere is this more evident than with software engineering systems. This infrastructure lies at the heart of everything we do as developers, powering our workstations and dev environments. Yet existing systems add large amounts of friction to many day-to-day workflows. Do you schedule your coffee breaks or lunch around a full rebuild of your source before you do a PR? Are devs on your team overdue for a hardware upgrade? As devs, we value the time we spend in flow. So it's not surprising that one of the leading causes of frustration among developers is underinvestment in the tools to help developers get their job done. Every project has its own list of required tools, runtimes, dependencies to build the application. New developers spend days or weeks following out-of-date docs to try and get a working dev environment. Multitasking across projects can lead to conflicting environment settings that can cost hours to recover or rebuild a working environment. Not all of our peers enjoy the same access to high-speed bandwidth. Dev teams in remote locations with limited bandwidth can spend hours each day synchronizing code with their teammates on the other side of the globe, reducing a team's productivity and slowing down the response to bugs and customer issues. As devs, we care most about focusing on creating software that makes a difference. Our friends on the dev infra and IT admin teams are facing their own set of challenges, trying to support our need for speed securely and at scale. Supply chain woes and the logistics of deploying expensive hardware across the globe are challenging to say the least. Specialized hardware like GPUs is even more difficult to source and may only be used for a limited task on a team. Admins want to rapidly deploy the right hardware to every developer in a way that scales to thousands of developers across an organization. The challenges of providing secure and efficient access to remote development teams are nothing new, but the growing number of hybrid and fully remote developers means teams across the entire organization are now facing the same problems. Over the last few years, we've seen an increasing number of malicious actors targeting engineering systems to exploit the software supply chain. Our access to sensitive source code and the need for administrative rights on local development workstations makes these attractive attack vectors. Enterprises are looking for ways to address the growing security risks without affecting developer productivity. These are common challenges for any company with growing engineering teams tackling large, complex development projects. A growing number of companies have started to develop custom solutions to address these common challenges. One company we recently worked with has over 20,000 developers distributed around the world. They're part of a regulated industry with extensive policies to secure developer workstations working on an application of over 1 million lines of code. Devs would spend hours cloning source, downloading package dependencies, and building binaries to get a working environment running before beginning a new set of changes. When the team was forced to begin working remotely, bandwidth and secure access to corporate resources became a significant bottleneck. Last year, the organization moved to a custom-built VDI solution that enabled developers to request VMs on demand. These VM workstations were refreshed several times a day with all the tools, current source, packages, and built binaries. Today, a developer starts a new feature or bug fix in a fresh VM that's provisioned in as little as 20 minutes. At the same time, they were able to provide secure access to on-premise resources from securely managed development workstations that their developers access from any compliant device. While their dev teams have seen a significant productivity boost, this new engineering system is maintained by its own dedicated engineering team. Unfortunately, for a lot of companies, this kind of investment is just not feasible. That's why we're excited to announce Microsoft DevBox, ready to code secure developer workstations for a hybrid team of any size. Microsoft DevBox is a new Azure service that bridges the gap between development teams and IT. DevBoxes can be set up with the tools, source code, and pre-built binaries for your project, so you can immediately start coding. Create new DevBoxes on demand to onboard a new project, to parallelize your work, and safely experiment in an isolated environment. Teams can customize DevBox images with any developer IDE, any SDK, or internal tool that runs on Windows. Whether your team is building desktop, mobile, or web apps, you can configure a DevBox for your project. With a range of SKUs from 4 to 32 cores and up to 128 gigabytes of memory, DevBoxes can scale to meet even the most demanding workloads. Lastly, Microsoft DevBox keeps security and management in the hands of IT. Intune enrolled DevBoxes allow IT to manage them like any other device on their network. DevBoxes come with built-in cost controls that allow teams to hibernate unused DevBoxes that developers can resume and pick up where they left off. Powered by Windows 365, DevBoxes are managed with Microsoft Endpoint Manager alongside the rest of your deployed devices. You can sign up to evaluate the private preview of Microsoft DevBox, and the public preview will be available in the next few months. So what does this all look like in action? I'll hand it off to Varun to walk us through how DevBoxes impact your day-to-day workflow.
Hi all, my name is Varun Gupta. I'm Lead Program Manager in Microsoft's Developer Division. Today, I'm excited to share demos and product concepts about Microsoft DevBox and Azure deployment environments. Let's get started. Microsoft DevBox service enables developers to focus on being productive instead of setting up their DevBoxes. This is particularly useful for a developer starting on a new project or being new to a company. It is also very useful on a daily basis for a developer to get different DevBoxes for different tasks with latest source code and assets. Let's start with a scenario of starting on a new project. All of us have been in a situation where we are joining a new team and we're trying to figure out how to set up a DevBox for this new project. Imagine on day one, instead of reading a long wiki page to get up and running with a DevBox, I get an email to simply click on a link to get a DevBox. I click on that link and it takes me to a developer portal. On the developer portal, with a click of a button, I can get a DevBox that's all pre-set up with latest source code, tools, packages, and caches, everything needed to make me productive right away. Also, DevBox is already pre-configured with appropriate hardware that's needed to work on a given project. In a short period of time, I get a ready-to-code DevBox. It's already connected to company's network with everything I need. It is a much faster experience than following a wiki page. Once a DevBox is created, I can jump right into it from my browser or a remote desktop connection. Getting into a DevBox becomes as simple as logging in with your email. DevBox opens quickly, and it is ready to code. Even Visual Studio is personalized because of roaming settings. I can immediately start working. I can search, browse, build code, and start playing with the app. Note that this is a full Windows desktop, so I can run this Maui app that needs Windows subsystem for Android. I can immediately build my code because everything is present on the machine. I can run and debug my app quickly. Within a short period of time, the entire setup is complete and I have my app running. I can even start making edits right away. For example, I will search for a file and look to change the background of this app to a different color. Let's say I want to change it to color pink. I can easily get that going. And the changes are available right away. In a short period of time, I have become productive. It's not just the time that I saved, but the fact that my focus is on being productive instead of thinking about following instructions to set up the project. Now that we have seen how Microsoft DevBox makes it super easy for the day one on a project, let's see how Microsoft DevBox takes a developer away from the limitation of a single physical box. Developers can now multitask with different dev boxes for different projects or different tasks. While they are waiting for build to finish, they can work on another task. In this example, you can simply check out various DevBox pools that are available for different projects in the team. For example, I see that there's a DevBox pool for a data science project. I can simply select it, and I will now get a DevBox that is ready to code with all the tools, source code, and assets required to work on this project. I can connect to this DevBox using a remote desktop experience and get a full Windows experience. I can use Windows Hello to log in into DevBox quickly. Note that DevBox is a full Windows desktop, so I can access all the dev tools such as ILDASM, WinDBG, GitHub Desktop, etc. I can quickly open up my IDE to get productive right away. And once I am done with this task, I can go back to Developer Portal to switch between different dev boxes and multitask. While these dev boxes are not being used, they're automatically hibernated. So you're not paying for compute cost while they are not in use. You can jump right back into them at a later time. So in this demo, you saw how Microsoft DevBox enables developers to get ready-to-code dev boxes. Now I'll hand it back to Anthony.
Thanks, Varun. Dev boxes come with a variety of features that are especially important for developers. First, dev boxes enable you to truly own your workstation. Create new dev boxes whenever you need them and delete them when you're done. They are created with custom images that the teams can define for separate projects or even separate tasks. Hibernation ensures you'll always be able to pick up where you left off the day before. Each dev box is a dedicated VM, so you never have to worry about a noisy neighbor. You can install any IDE, SDK, or tools that you can deploy into a Windows environment, including your own internal tools and utilities. Dev boxes support any app type that can be built using a Windows development environment, meaning they can be used to create everything from desktop or mobile, web apps, or to games. You can create apps that run natively on Windows or cross-platform on Linux using WSL. Dev boxes can be accessed from any device and from any OS. Use a web browser while on the road or remote desktop from your Windows, Mac, or Linux desktop. You can even access dev boxes from an Android or iOS device to make a quick change. Because dev boxes are managed for you by your IT team, you never need to worry about updating your machine. You can simply use it when you need while trusting that it's up to date and secure. Ready-to-code dev boxes transform how we think about traditional development environments. The flexibility to create a dev box with all the tools and source to build a specific app means your team can move from carefully curated, long-running developer desktops to ephemeral resources that can quickly be spun up for any number of tasks. From time to time, coding a new feature gets interrupted by high-priority regressions or an important customer bug. Use dev boxes to isolate and parallelize work. A full rebuild before submitting a PR can run in the background, while you create a new DevBox to start a new task. Working across multiple projects can also get easier when you don't have to worry about bogging down your main development environment with separate tool chains or conflicting configurations. Have you ever worried what a proof of concept using a new dependency might do to your development environment? Safely run experiments without poisoning your primary workspace. Test new tool chains, breaking changes, and make other significant edits without having to worry about problems that might show up down the road. Legacy applications can be difficult to maintain as the dependencies in them change over time and contributors move on to other projects. Out-of-date documentation can delay getting a working environment to reproduce and diagnose a customer's issue when time is truly critical. Maintaining DevBoxes for legacy applications allows developers to save valuable time responding to these issues, reducing downtime for customers and interruptions in your team's productivity. But DevBox doesn't just benefit the individual developer. It's at its best when supporting an entire development team. I'll hand it back to Varun to take a closer look at the way DevBoxes supports dev teams of any size.
Thanks again, Anthony. In the previous demo, we saw a very simple experience for developers. In this demo, we will see workflow for a dev lead to enable this seamless experience for their developers. The goal is that a dev lead can specify configuration for a DevBox one time, and then every developer on the project has a simple onboarding experience. The core concept here is DevBox pool. On Microsoft DevBox service, you simply navigate to the project for your team. Here, you can create a DevBox pool for your project. The most important part is to create DevBox definition, which contains the information about the content of the DevBox. It contains information about the image, which contains all the tools and artifacts required for the DevBox. You will also specify hardware SKU size for this pool so that developers are productive while they work on this project. Finally, you would also want to connect DevBoxes to a company network. DevBox service enables IT admin to configure networks for different regions centrally. And as a dev lead, you can simply select one of those available network connections. Another aspect is to manage costs for these DevBoxes. Developers do not use DevBoxes 24/7. However, they may not remember to hibernate the DevBox at the end of the day. As a dev lead, you can specify an automated schedule for hibernating DevBoxes in the evening. You can also specify an auto start time for the morning, so DevBox is ready for the developer in the morning. This way, you're not getting charged for compute at night. You also have other options, such as setting limits for each developer or number of DevBoxes they can create. Once the pool is created, DevBox service automatically runs various validations to ensure that developers do not run into any issues later. For example, network settings will be verified to confirm connectivity. DevBox image will also be verified. The service also replicates the image to the region of the DevBox to ensure good performance for developers. Once the pool is created, it can be used by developers. As it is used by developers, as a dev lead, you can manage the DevBoxes in the pool. You can view all the DevBoxes that are being created. If someone is on vacation, you can hibernate their DevBox for them. Or if someone leaves the team, you can delete the DevBox on their behalf. Now, I'll hand it back to Anthony.
Thanks again, Varun. Before we move on, let's recap the DevBox capabilities that directly benefit dev teams. What do developer teams get with Microsoft DevBox? First off, teams can create different DevBox pools for projects, roles, even tasks on a team. Each pool brings together a SKU, a custom image, and a network configuration that automatically joins the dev box into your native AAD or Active Directory domain. This combination gives teams tremendous flexibility to define specific dev environments for any scenario. Large organizations can manage a portfolio of applications through separate projects, providing the flexibility to define access controls in AAD and rapidly onboard new members while maintaining security. Teams can deploy dev boxes into the region closest to their development teams to provide the highest fidelity experience possible. Teams can also use start-stop schedules for individual DevBox pools to make sure DevBoxes are available at the start of the day and are only running when needed. Hibernation ensures that stopping a DevBox does not stop anyone's work. Get a single view of all the costs from one place to understand the costs across the entire project and team. Thanks to these comprehensive team management features, DevBox makes it easy for dev leads to ensure their developers have the tools and resources they need to succeed on their project. From the start, DevBoxes help dev teams scale up compute for the developers that need it most. With a DevBox, you can immediately upgrade aging hardware without having to deal with supply chain challenges or logistical issues. Set up standard DevBoxes for daily tasks and deploy high-powered environments for the most demanding workloads. DevBoxes also help growing teams onboard new developers faster. Standardize DevBox definitions across the team with all the approved tools and code to onboard in minutes rather than weeks, so new devs start contributing and feeling like part of the team as soon as they join. Create role-specific environments and access controls to ensure everyone has the tools they need to be successful. Software developers, data scientists, and site reliability engineers, full-time employees and contractors can each have unique dev boxes with the specific tools and permissions to get their job done. You may be outsourcing part of your development to teams that are across the globe and may have limited bandwidth. Dev boxes are deployed in the developer's local region and connected via Azure's global network, so all your developers get the benefit of a high-fidelity remote experience and gigabit connection speed for transferring data. Dev boxes can be configured with distinct network configurations, allowing teams to create dev boxes for various roles on a team. Standard dev boxes might be configured with admin rights, giving full-time developers greater control, while more restricted permissions are applied for contractors. Set up privileged access workstations for site reliability engineers to access production environments during live site incidents that follow best practices, including compliant device conditional access, approved URL allow lists, approved software installed on the environment, and no admin rights. What makes dev boxes powerful for teams of any size is the flexibility it gives developers and the control it provides IT admins. Dev boxes are cloud PCs powered by Windows 365, so they are enrolled in Intune and managed by Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Comprehensive access controls in AAD enable IT professionals to organize access by project or user type. IT admins can automatically join dev boxes natively to an Azure Active Directory or to an Active Directory domain. They can set conditional access policies that require users to connect via a compliant device and require multi-factor authentication at sign-in. They can also configure risk-based sign-in policies for dev boxes that access sensitive source code or customer data. Meanwhile, deep analytics, auditing, and reporting enable IT teams to monitor and manage workstation and resource utilization in addition to tracking and monitoring device health. DevBox also makes it easy to keep all Windows devices up to date. Using Intune's expedited quality updates, IT admins can deploy zero-day patches across their entire organization and on every device. If a DevBox is compromised, IT admins can isolate the DevBox while helping the developer get back up and running on a new DevBox. I'll hand back off to Varun to take a closer look at the benefits of DevBox for IT admins.
Thanks, Anthony. In this demo, we would look at IT administrator experience for managing dev boxes. I am an engineer, just like you, so I don't really know much about IT administration. However, I do know that IT administrators would want to manage security of these dev boxes just like they manage our physical boxes today. They would want to ensure security, compliance, and health of these dev boxes. Microsoft dev boxes are natively integrated into the Intune Endpoint Manager. As you can see, an IT admin can see all the devices, including Microsoft DevBoxes, in the Intune portal. Additionally, they can also apply all the security settings for DevBoxes as appropriate. Let's take an example. Let's assume that the IT admin wants to ensure that multi-factor authentication also applies to DevBoxes. IT admin can go to the conditional access blade and select MFA setting here. Note that there are other security settings here as well that admin can choose to apply. At a high level, there are a lot of security settings in the Microsoft Intune Endpoint Manager that IT admins use today to manage physical devices today. And they can use the same settings for DevBoxes as well. In addition, IT admins can look at reliability and performance analytics of these DevBoxes. For example, they can look at which DevBoxes are over or underutilized and share that information with the dev leads. For example, they may observe that some DevBoxes are heavily CPU constrained while others are RAM constrained. Back to you, Anthony.
Thanks, Varun. Now, some of you may already be familiar with GitHub Codespaces, another product we offer in the dev environment virtualization space. And you may be wondering what the differences are between these services. We see Codespaces and Microsoft DevBox as complementary services that developers can choose between depending on their current use case. GitHub Codespaces is a cloud developer environment that is great for building cloud-native applications. If you're building web apps, APIs, and libraries built with Linux containers, and you're using GitHub, Codespaces provide a tightly integrated experience accessible from GitHub and Visual Studio Code. Microsoft DevBox is a great choice for developers who need Windows-based development environments. DevBoxes can run UI-based tools like SQL Management Studio in the dev environment, and they can target any code host or version control system. They support workloads ranging from mobile to desktop apps, IoT or game applications can be built running natively on Windows or cross-platform using WSL. If your IT organization uses Microsoft Endpoint Manager to monitor and control your dev infrastructure, then DevBoxes are a great place to start. Together, Codespaces and DevBoxes provide devs with two powerful, ready-to-code dev environment solutions, so you can choose the right solution to match your development scenario. Developer workstations are just one part of the modern engineering system. Today, applications are built around a variety of cloud services. For developers to effectively test their applications and prepare them for production, they need access to environments that enable them to see how their code interacts with those services. But setting up and deploying environments can be complicated and time-consuming. One of our customers, a global car and vehicle manufacturer, needed to work in complex environments using a variety of services like AKS clusters, Key Vault, Redis Cache, and app services. Anytime a developer needed to deploy a new environment, they would work with their dev infra team to manually set up the resources on their behalf in Azure. Each time teams need to refresh the environment or create a new environment for a different deployment stage, and moving from dev to test or production, they again would need to engage their dev infra teams to set up each environment. Unsurprisingly, this process was both time-consuming and costly. To overcome this challenge, that organization built another custom solution that enabled their dev infra teams to create standardized infrastructure as code templates that were pre-configured for different development scenarios and that their developers could use and deploy on demand. Developers at the organization can select from a catalog of templatized environments to find one that fits their app and deployment stage with all the resources and services they need. Developers plug in the relevant resource to a stage in their CI/CD pipeline, which deploys their app running in the environment. Yet despite the benefits this provided their dev team, it still requires a significant amount of time and effort to maintain their custom solution. We're excited to announce a new cloud service, Azure deployment environments that are self-service templatized environments for any stage of development. Azure development environments is in private preview today and will be in public preview over the next few months. Sign up to evaluate the private preview today using the URL below. By providing developers with self-service, project-based templates pre-built to deploy with all the services and resources they need for their app, deployment environments make it easy for devs to deploy environments where and when they need them for their current development task. At the same time, central IT teams maintain control over security and compliance and costs with permissions management, context-aware access, and full control over cloud resource configurations. Deployment environments enable organizations to have standardized template environments, making it easier for devs to collaborate and share best practices across the team. Now let's take a deeper look at deployment environments and how you can use them as a developer. Azure deployment environments makes it easy for developers to focus on coding the application with self-service templates that handle the configuration of the environment where their application will run. Deployment environments are built on source-controlled definition files, meaning devs can simply deploy the right environment for their project without having to worry about back-end processes or the ins and outs of the infrastructure on which they run. Deployment environments show you all the relevant environment templates for your project and deploys them based on the identities and subscriptions maintained by your IT team. You can deploy environments directly from where you're working, whether it's in a code repo, the command line, or a custom portal built by your organization. Azure deployment environments help secure sensitive information running on environments by maintaining centralized control over running environments. Access controls in Azure Active Directory help central IT teams protect the app wherever it's running. Cross-environment auditing and reporting help IT admins track how environments are being used by each team. The dev infra and central IT teams can configure unique permissions for each environment, ramping up protections for pre-production and production environments while giving developers more freedom to experiment in a sandbox environment. To keep costs down, custom start and stop scheduling enables you to set up when environments go live in the morning and shut down in the evening, even across time zones. Once an environment is no longer needed, auto-expire automatically shuts it down. Deployment environments provide devs with environments for any stage of development. Devs working in teams can always trust that they're working in the same environment as their teammates, making it easier to collaborate and work on projects simultaneously. As devs iterate and build on their environments, they can easily share ideas and best practices, helping devs feel empowered to speak up about new findings, tips, and tricks. Use these templates to deploy environments as part of your CI/CD pipeline. Define separate templates for each stage of development. Sandbox environments can start from a template or greenfield to experiment on a proof of concept. I'll hand it back over to Varun to show you how deployment environments look in action.
Thanks, Anthony. Modern apps often spin up various Azure services, such as Azure Key Vault, etc. Devs face roadblocks to spin up these services ad hoc in order to do end-to-end testing of their changes before pushing it to production. In this demo, we will see how Azure deployment environments can be used in a CI/CD pipeline to dynamically create environments in the cloud. We have a simple API application that spins up multiple Azure services. It has a single function that returns current time. Notice that we have two branches. We have dev branch from where we'll create feature branches from. Main branch is considered production. So everything in main is deployed to a production instance of this application. In Azure, we have our dev center called main center. Notice that we have 4 environment types. We have dev, pre-prod, test, and prod created. We'll also have created mappings for the API project that maps to different subscriptions that have different policies applied to them. As a developer, whenever it's time for me to make a change, I'll create a feature branch. From the dev branch, I'm going to create a feature branch called longtime. Now I'm going to go to VS Code to modify the code. Now I'm going to save the change. I'll make the commit for my change and then publish my branch. Coming back to our repo, If we go to GitHub Actions, we see that we have kicked off a new workflow, and that is going to create an Azure deployment environment for this branch. When this finishes, I'll have an environment in the cloud with this code published to it and various services associated with it. I can work within that environment as I continue to make changes and updates. Once workflow finishes, I can jump back to Azure and see that it has indeed created a new environment called CI branch long time. I click into that and see it has been created in dev environment type. We can go into the resource group and see that I have all the cloud resources associated with our API application. So I jump into one of the services, function app, and go ahead and test it to see it works. And looks like it works. Now I'll create a pull request into the dev branch in GitHub. Upon opening this pull request, just like when I created a new branch, a workflow will be kicked off to create an additional environment in Azure for this pull request. Note that the pull request environment is going to be generated as a test environment instead of a dev. If I go to Azure, I can see that we have a new environment called PR13 for this PR that I created. So now, as the PR test environment validation is finished, I can go ahead and merge the PR into the dev branch. And what that merge is going to do, it's going to kick off two additional workflows. The first workflow will delete the branch environment because that branch was automatically deleted with the PR. Next is going to delete the PR environment because we are done with the PR. When both of those are completed, then it will update the dev environment because that is associated with the dev branch. Now I'll go back to Azure. I'll hit refresh and you can see that we have only two environments for a prod branch and dev branch because other two environments were deleted. Now we are ready for release. I'll create one more PR to merge dev into main. Again, opening this PR is going to kick off a new workflow that will deploy this code to our pre-production environment in Azure. Now that workflow is finished, we can come back to Azure, hit refresh, and notice that we have a new environment called PR14. Also notice that resource group associated with that environment is deployed to pre-production subscription, which is a subscription associated with a pre-prod environment. Finally, I'll come in and approve this PR. So closing that PR kicked off two workflows. One that is going to delete the environment it just created in pre-prod for the PR. Second, that it is going to update the prod environment, which will update the environment with the code that is now in the main branch. One important thing about this workflow is that it requires approval to start. So it's in waiting phase right now. If I click into it, it shows that it has requested my review to deploy to prod. I also got an email for this. I can approve it. Now, deployment to prod workflow will start and prod environment will be updated. A little bit background on how this was all set up. We saw earlier that we had 4 environment types in our dev center: dev, test, pre-prod, and prod. The repo is set up to have same environment types mapped to it. So we have dev, test, pre-prod, and prod. Each of these has a separate managed identity that has only access to deploy to each of the subscriptions or environment types. And we can look at how that's set up by coming into environments in GitHub. These are the security profiles. You can see here that there are 2 protected rules for production environment. And that's what allowed us to require approval before starting the workflow, because secrets associated with this environment requires reviewers' permission in order to be able to use it. And that's last of our demos. Thank you for your time and hand you back to Anthony.
Thanks, Varun. We've just introduced 2 exciting new services Microsoft has created to help deliver developer velocity through your entire engineering system. Both services transform how you as a developer can engage with the systems on which your apps are built, giving you the freedom to deploy the resources and environments you need when you need them and get straight to coding. Microsoft DevBox and Azure deployment environments help bridge the gap between developers and dev infra admins, giving teams on both sides of the infrastructure the tools to use and manage their development systems in the ways that maximize productivity, security, and cost efficiency. If you want to find out more about Microsoft DevBox and Azure deployment environments, you can read about it in our blog announcement. Or if you're interested in joining the list to evaluate the private preview, you can sign up using the links here. That's all we have for you today. If you have more questions, please join our Ask the Expert session later today. Thank you for your time.